Parents didn't want me at the wedding. "There's no room for you, we don't need you here," they said. I smiled and said, "Okay, have fun without me." And when the photographer cancelled, it started with a phone call, casual, almost offhand. I remember sitting at my kitchen table, the evening light bleeding through the blinds, when my mother called. Her voice was brisk, with that undercurrent of condescension I'd learned to expect from her. "Jack, about the wedding," she started, as if we'd already had this conversation before. I straightened in my chair. "Yeah?" she sighed. "There's not really any room for you at the venue. And well, it's mostly for close family. You understand, right?" Close family. The words dug in like tiny splinters. I was her son. I'd grown up under her roof, learned to keep my head down, and never ask for much. But here she was, telling me I wasn't even close family anymore. "Okay," I said, my voice smooth, almost amused. "Have fun without me." I ended the call before she could respond, and sat there, staring at the phone, as the weight of what just happened pressed down. This wasn't just about the wedding. It wasn't even about me being left out of a ceremony where my father, now divorced from my mother, was remarrying a woman he'd met at a country club. It was about years of being the afterthought, the invisible child, the one who was always expected to understand, to forgive, to sacrifice. I thought back to the way they'd leaned on me for years, calling me when they needed help with bills, when my sister Emily had her latest financial crisis, when my dad wanted a small loan to cover his car payments. I had always been there, no questions asked. But not this time. Not when I wasn't even worth a chair at their table. It wasn't until later that evening, when I got a message from a friend who was supposed to be one of the groomsmen, that I learned the real reason behind their decision. Apparently, the venue wasn't booked out. There was plenty of room. They just didn't want me there. That realization hit me harder than anything my mother said. It wasn't that they couldn't accommodate me. They just chose not to. And for the first time, I didn't feel the usual flood of guilt or obligation. I felt free. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. No guilt, no anxiety, just a quiet acceptance of the truth I'd known for years but had never wanted to face. I made coffee, sat on the couch with my phone, and began scrolling through social media. There they were, posts from my father's fiancée, shots of her trying on her wedding dress, close-ups of the fancy floral arrangements, captions about how family means everything. I laughed bitterly at that last one. By noon, the calls and messages started. My mother texted me first. "Jack, can you stop by later to pick up some stuff from the house?" I ignored it. Then my sister Emily chimed in. "It's not a big deal. Just let it go. We all need to move on." As if they hadn't made it very clear that they didn't need me. That afternoon, a friend from the wedding party called me. "Hey man. So, the photographer cancelled. Like last minute. Total disaster. They're freaking out. Your mom was asking if you could maybe step in. She said you're really good with a camera." I almost dropped my phone. They didn't want me there when everything was perfect. But now that their plan was falling apart, suddenly I was useful? I kept my tone casual. "Oh, really? What happened with the photographer?" "Something about double booking. They're scrambling to find a replacement. But you're kind of the family's unofficial photographer, right? I remember your shots from Aunt Linda's anniversary party. They were amazing." I chuckled, the sound bitter in my throat. "I guess they'll have to figure it out without me. I wasn't invited, remember?" There was a long pause. "Yeah, but... I mean, it's family, right?" "Right," I said. "Family." I ended the call and sat back on the couch, my coffee gone cold. They thought they could erase me when it was convenient, and pull me back when it suited them. Not this time. The following evening, I got another call, this time from my mother herself. The moment I answered, her voice was a mix of forced calm and barely concealed desperation. "Jack, honey," she said, her tone sugary sweet. "How have you been?" I almost laughed. "Oh, you know. Just enjoying my weekend off." She hesitated. "I wanted to talk to you about the wedding. There's been a little hiccup." "A hiccup?" I repeated. Yes, well, the photographer we hired cancelled, and we're just in a bit of a bind. I know you have a good eye, and you've done some beautiful photography before, so I was wondering if I could step in and save the day? I finished for her, my voice as light as hers, but with an edge. There was a pause. Well, yes. Just for a few hours. It would mean so much to us. Us. The same us that had told me there was no room for me. The same us that didn't need me until it became inconvenient. I thought you didn't need me there, I said. Oh, Jack, don't be so dramatic, she huffed. You're part of the family. You know we've always appreciated your talent. I let the silence stretch, long enough for her to start to squirm. Finally I said, I'll think about it. Before she could protest, I ended the call. For the first time in years, I felt like I was in control. They were the ones scrambling, the ones on the back foot. And I was finally calling the shots. I sat back, staring at the phone in my hand, thinking of all the years I'd been the dependable one, the fixer, the glue holding the family together. Not anymore. For the next 2 days, my phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, texts, even messages from cousins and extended family, all echoing the same plea, please help with the wedding. You're the only one who can fix this. The old me would have caved. I would have packed up my camera, ironed my best shirt, and driven over to the venue, ready to play the hero. But this wasn't the old me. I sat in my apartment, looking at the camera bag I'd left gathering dust in the corner. I'd once loved photography, not just as a hobby, but as a way to capture the stories people forgot to tell. Moments of love, of family, of togetherness. But after years of being overlooked, ignored, and treated like a convenience, the idea of doing this one last favor made my stomach turn. I had to make a decision. Did I go, give them what they wanted, and reinforce their belief that I'd always be there to pick up the pieces? Or did I finally draw the line, even if it meant burning the last fragile bridge between us? I thought back to every phone call where they asked for a favor, every time they laughed behind my back, every moment they made me feel invisible. I picked up my phone and typed a single message to my mother. I'm sorry, but I can't help. I hope the wedding goes well. And I hit send. My heart raced, but it wasn't fear or regret. It was relief. For the first time in my life, I was putting myself first. The day of the wedding arrived with a chill in the air, a low-hanging fog that seemed to mirror the weight pressing down on me. I wasn't at the venue, but I was far from unaware of what was unfolding. Through social media posts, texts from curious relatives, and whispered updates from family friends, I pieced together the scene. The grand country club where the wedding was set was picture-perfect. White drapery, tables adorned with crystal centerpieces, an arch of roses that looked like it was pulled from a magazine spread. But amidst the glamour was chaos. The replacement photographer they'd hired at the last minute, an amateur found through a cousin's Facebook post, hadn't shown up on time. When he did, his equipment was basic, and his eye for the perfect shot left much to be desired. The wedding party was scrambling. My mother's voice echoed through text I received from a distant cousin. Your mother is practically in tears. She's saying the pictures are going to be ruined. They're begging for someone to help. I could almost see it, the frantic glances, the whispered arguments, the desperate realization that the meticulously planned day was slipping through their fingers. Meanwhile, I was sitting on a park bench downtown, camera in hand, not to help, but for myself. I hadn't touched it in months, but today, I let the lens guide me through scenes of people laughing in the streets, children playing, a couple sharing a quiet moment by a fountain. Each shot felt like a reclaiming of something I'd lost, the love for storytelling, the passion for capturing moments that mattered. Around midday, I wandered by the country club. Not close enough to be noticed, but within view of the entrance. I watched as guests milled about, confusion and frustration clear on their faces. The frantic groomsmen ran back and forth, the bride's dress snagged on a chair, her veil askew. I lifted my camera, took a few candid shots from afar, not to gloat, but to capture the raw, unfiltered reality of the day. As I stood there, a strange calm settled over me. This was the culmination of everything, the years of feeling invisible, The sacrifices unnoticed, the quiet hurt. I didn't need to confront them. I didn't need to raise my voice or demand an apology. This was their mess to clean up, their day to salvage. And I was finally free of it. I left quietly, fading into the city as the wedding stumbled along without me. That evening, I posted a series of photographs to my social media. They weren't of the wedding but of the city, the quiet resilience of everyday moments, the unexpected beauty of imperfection. I captioned them with a simple line: some stories are worth telling. Others, not so much. I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. The message was clear. The next morning, I woke up to a barrage of notifications on my phone. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails, and frantic texts, most of them from my mother. "Jack, please call me back. We really need to talk. This is a disaster." I ignored them. I knew what they were about. The wedding had been a mess. The photos were terrible. Guests had noticed the chaos. And even though the couple was officially married, the day they'd planned for months had crumbled. My cousin Mark sent me a message. "Everyone's talking about how bad the photographer was. Aunt Linda said it was like a high school yearbook shoot." I should have felt vindicated. But instead, I felt something quieter, deeper. Sadness, maybe, or a kind of pity. Later that afternoon, I finally answered one of my mother's calls. "Jack!" she exclaimed the moment she heard my voice. "Thank God. You have to help us." I could hear the stress in her voice, the panic barely held at bay. She tried to regain composure, but it was clear she was unraveling. "I don't think I can," I said calmly. "But you're the only one who can fix this," she pleaded. "We'll pay you whatever you want. Just please, can you salvage the photos? The ones the photographer took are unusable." I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me. The old me would have jumped in, tried to patch things up, sacrificed my time and energy to make it right. But this wasn't about the photos. It was about respect. About finally setting a boundary. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice steady. "But I told you I couldn't help." "That still stands." There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. Then her voice cracked. "Jack, we're family. We need each other." I almost laughed at the irony. The same family that had told me, "There's no room for you, we don't need you here." Now they needed me more than ever. "No," I said quietly. "You need me when it's convenient. When it suits you. But family doesn't work like that. Not anymore." Before she could respond, I ended the call. And for the first time, I felt truly at peace. A few days passed. The frantic calls and texts from my mother and the rest of the family slowed to a trickle, then stopped altogether. The silence was almost deafening at first, but slowly, it felt like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I could imagine them trying to salvage the wedding photos, trying to explain to friends and extended family why the pictures were so disappointing. I even pictured them flipping through blurry, poorly lit shots of the reception, each one a silent reminder of the mess they had created. What surprised me was how little satisfaction I felt. Sure, there was a sliver of vindication, but mostly I felt free. In the quiet that followed, I started to rediscover parts of myself that had been buried for years beneath the pressure to please them. I picked up my camera and went on long walks, capturing quiet moments around the city. I visited old friends I hadn't seen in years, shared laughs and stories over coffee, and felt more connected than I ever had during those stiff family gatherings. One afternoon, as I was editing a set of photos from a local street fair, a message popped up on my phone. It was from an old college friend, a wedding planner I hadn't spoken to in a long time. "Hey Jack, I saw those photos you posted the other day. They're stunning. Are you still doing event photography? I have a couple getting married in a few months who might be interested." I stared at the message for a moment, then smiled. I hadn't thought of returning to photography professionally, but the idea didn't feel burdensome like it used to. It felt exciting. Like maybe, finally, I was doing it for me. I replied, "Thanks for reaching out. Let's talk more, I'd love to help." For the first time in years, I was making choices that weren't about them. They were about me. About what I wanted, what I loved, what I deserved. A week later, I stood by the window of my apartment, watching the rain streak down the glass. The city outside felt washed clean, like it had been waiting for the storm to pass. Just like me. The silence from my family was deafening now. No calls, no texts, not even the passive-aggressive voicemails my mother used to leave. It was as if they had collectively decided to pretend I didn't exist. The funny thing was, for once, I didn't mind. In that quiet, I found something I hadn't realized I was missing: space. Space to think, to breathe, to reflect. I thought back to that phone call from my mother, the desperation in her voice, the plea for me to be family. As though family was a switch to flip on and off at their convenience. I thought about all the years I had bent over backwards to be the dependable son, the helpful brother, the invisible problem solver. How many weekends had I sacrificed to help them move, fix things, bail them out of tight spots? How many times had I swallowed my pride, my hurt, just to keep the peace? And for what? So they could dismiss me, exclude me from their lives when it suited them, only to come crawling back when they needed something? I wasn't angry anymore. The anger had burned itself out, leaving behind something stronger: resolve. I picked up my camera, the same one that had sat in its bag collecting dust for too long. Slowly, almost reverently, I cleaned the lens, checked the settings, made sure everything was in working order. Then I packed it up and headed out into the city. I spent the day capturing stories, not posed portraits or manufactured moments, but real life. The weathered face of the old man feeding pigeons in the park, the burst of laughter from a couple caught in the rain, the quiet grace of a street musician lost in her own melody. Each shot felt like a piece of myself I was reclaiming. Not for them. For me. That evening, I sat down at my computer and started editing. The images came alive on the screen, each one a testament to resilience, to finding beauty in the overlooked. It was therapeutic in a way I hadn't expected. I uploaded the album to my portfolio site, added a simple caption: "Finding light in the unexpected." Within hours, the messages started pouring in. Photographers I admired complimented the work. Old friends reached out, saying how much the images moved them. Even a couple of strangers messaged me, saying how the photos made them feel seen, understood. For the first time, my work wasn't about pleasing someone else. It wasn't about proving myself to my family. It was about telling the stories that mattered, about capturing the raw, unfiltered moments of life. Late that night, as I sat in the glow of my computer screen, I thought about the wedding, the one I had been deliberately excluded from, the one that descended into chaos without me. I imagined the album of blurry, amateur photos my family was probably flipping through now, each one a stark contrast to the vibrant, meaningful images I had created that day. And for the first time, I felt a strange kind of gratitude. They had tried to erase me from that day, but in doing so, they had set me free. I didn't need their approval anymore. I didn't need their inclusion. I didn't need their version of family. I had my own. The world was bigger than their small circle of judgment and control. And I was finally ready to step into it. The next few weeks were a blur, but a good one. My photography portfolio began to grow, as did the quiet hum of recognition. People were sharing my images, leaving messages about how much the rawness and humanity resonated with them. I wasn't chasing clients, yet they were finding me. One evening, I received a message from a couple who'd seen my recent street photography collection. They were planning an intimate wedding in the city and loved the authenticity in my work. They didn't want staged photos or posed perfection. They wanted someone who could capture the real, fleeting moments of their day. It felt like a door quietly opening, one that I'd never dared to knock on before. When I met with them at a cozy little cafe, they explained their vision. "We've seen a lot of wedding photos," the bride-to-be said, stirring her coffee nervously. "But they all feel fake. We want photos that tell a story, our story, just as it happens." As I listened, something clicked deep inside me. For years, I tried to tell my family's story in photos, their birthdays, anniversaries, celebrations. But it was always a performance, a curated version of what they wanted the world to see. Now, here was a chance to tell a story that was real, unfiltered, and full of emotion. "I'd be honored," I told them. That night, As I walked home through the quiet streets, a thought struck me. This was what I was meant to do. Not to be a silent witness to my family's staged happiness, but to document the raw, unguarded moments of real life. It was ironic, in a way. The wedding that excluded me had led me back to photography, to rediscovering the passion I'd nearly lost under years of family obligation. Meanwhile, the silence from my family continued. Occasionally, I'd get a passive-aggressive message from my mother, something like, "Hope you're doing well. We're still trying to figure out what to do with the wedding photos." Or from my sister, Emily, "Maybe next time you won't let us down." I never replied. Instead, I focused on the new wedding gig. On the day of the shoot, I felt a sense of quiet satisfaction as I arrived early, camera in hand. The venue was modest but beautiful, filled with personal touches and laughter. I moved through the space like a shadow, capturing moments of joy, nervous anticipation, tears, and spontaneous laughter. At one point, during a quiet moment, the bride's father caught me off guard. He approached me, smiling warmly. "You've got a good eye," he said. "Thank you for doing this for them. It's not just about taking pictures, it's about making memories last." His words stayed with me. After the wedding, as I was reviewing the photos, I realized something. In all the years I'd tried to gain my family's approval, to be included and appreciated, I'd been waiting for them to say something like that. To recognize my efforts, to see me not as a convenience but as someone with a voice and talent worth honoring. But they never had. And now I understood why. It wasn't about me. It was about them, their expectations, their needs. By stepping away, by refusing to be their fallback plan, I had created space for people who genuinely valued what I had to offer. That night, I posted a new set of photos from the wedding on my portfolio site, accompanied by a simple caption, "For those who value the story behind the smile." The responses flooded in, messages from strangers, clients, and even other photographers. Their words were filled with gratitude and admiration. They saw the emotion in the images, the life behind the lens. I sat back and let their words wash over me. It was more validation than I'd ever gotten from my family. And this time, it was real. A month later, I got a single text from my mother. "We saw your photos online. They're nice. Maybe you could take a few of us next time we're all together?" I stared at it, feeling the weight of what she wasn't saying. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of how they treated me. Just a casual request, as if nothing had happened. I didn't reply. Instead, I closed my phone, stepped outside into the crisp evening air, and walked through the city, camera in hand. As I snapped a candid of a street musician bathed in the glow of a nearby lamp, I realized something simple and powerful. I didn't need their validation anymore. Some bridges, once burned, aren't worth rebuilding. I was finally free.